Welcome back to Daybreak. The Daybreak that never takes a break.
A lot of conversation continues to happen behind the scene.
Right. My name is Sam Gituku.
And my name is Nziki Piku.
Right. And you're still with the panelists of Senator Leda Molekina from Narok, Dan Manzo from Makueni, Senator Samson Cherargei from Nandi County, as well as Moses Kajwang from Homa Bay. And we now want to focus on the story of prison diaries, or hashtag Barnamiji ya Gerezani. Say that? All right, let's have the absent first.
Just alifanya, aliandika ni makaratasi kwa inachukuliwa tu inaandikwa, anapewa, tukarudi kwa nyumba. Mimi sikuwa najua chenye kinaendelea. So yani yake alikuwa anataka ufungwe, auze ile shamba, na pia mwanamke aende. Alikuwa anashinda kuniambia, sasa hiyo unaitiwa askari anakuambia vile utasema, tumeamkia koti. Kikosa kusema hivyo mimi ndo nitafungwa, sikujua lolote. Naomba unisamehe. Mama alienda akaolewa. Nimeachwa peke yangu, wengine walienda. Na kaka maisha kimbia yangu, na niko na sisters na brother, niko na mama. Lakini kaka kama mtoto yatima.
Na mimi naombanga Mungu anilinde mpaka ile siku atataka nitoke jela. Mtoto wangu nakusamehe.
Right, that is Julius Wambua, who is reconciling with a daughter after 10 years in jail.
Right.
And I want us to begin from the point of view, just how possible is it in our justice system to have the wrong person behind bars, and especially when talking about sexual offenses and crimes?
Yes, you know, sexual offenses and crimes is a new law, and whereby I think a lot of Kenyans have not yet understood the consequences. There are a lot of people now in prison in Kenya. 70% of really behind bars because of allegations of sexual offenses. And when you interview these people or you talk to them, they have no idea that what they were doing has a very, very serious sentence. 24 years in jail, lifetime in jail. So first and foremost, defilement is a serious offense and can land one in a lot of trouble. Any sexual activity with a young child. And this applies to both boys and girls. Again, you know, according to London, it is better to release 1,000 criminals than to sentence one innocent person. We have very many innocent persons in jail. First and foremost, if you are accused of sexual offenses, you hardly get a lawyer. Secondly, you are likely to find a lady magistrate or a lady judge, and without evidence, you know, proper evidence. A lot of times, circumstantial evidence is relied upon to convict these people.
Right. And
in a lot of cases, ordinarily, actually, magistrates convict, you know, wherever there is circumstantial evidence of that nature, and especially from children. So it will be better if people went beyond that and checked what other evidence was available. Was there DNA evidence other than the stories the children tell?
Is it a requirement to have DNA sampling and testing before you can convict?
Actually, the defense lawyers should be able to work on that, and a lot of times these people cannot afford a defense lawyer who will go into those details. And a lot of times these people go unrepresented. And I think it's a high time we reviewed these cases and sorted out the ones whereby the person is not guilty and the ones where the person is guilty.
Honorable Dan, what does Kenya's law say when it comes to innocent prisoners who are wrongfully convicted in terms of compensation?
You know you can only be compensated if you are released on appeal, and ordinarily you have to sue the Attorney General. It's a very long process. By the time anyone who was wrongfully jailed or wrongfully arrested or wrongfully sent abroad. We had one case where a Kenyan was wrongfully sent abroad for trial, and when they came back, They successfully sued the government and were awarded some compensation.
Okay.
But the government appealed and the matter has never been resolved. These matters take a very long time. And finally, if you are awarded compensation against the government, it has to be budgeted. So it has to go through another another financial year.
I wish we could say the same thing about corruption when it comes to innocent prisoners who are wrongfully convicted.
But Senator Kajwang, so here we are in a situation where Julius Ombo and the daughter have reconciled. It is clear to the public that he is innocent. So what options does he have moving forward?
You see, even though I didn't watch the entire episode, we have the evidence of a convicted person or the testimony of a convicted person. It will still have to be tested for it to be confirmed beyond any reasonable doubt that the allegations that he's making, the girls confessed and were not under duress. So it's, I don't know whether we are at the point where we can say that this person was convicted wrongfully until there's another process to determine his innocence, and that would be through an appellate process. In the last parliament...
Has he lost that chance, bearing in mind that he's been behind bars for 10 years? Usually the window of appeal is about 14 days?
Yes, there could be those limitations. There could be those limitations. And there's a lot of mistrial and miscarriage of justice. The prisons currently hold 55,000 persons, about 55,000, against a capacity of 32,000. The bulk of these are in remand. And if you do an analysis, you realize that sexual offenders are the majority in our cells. When we went around looking at prisons and Bostol's institutions, the task that Senator Cherargei now has taken up in this parliament as chair of JLAC, we were told also by players in the criminal justice system that the problem also comes from Parliament, the way in which Parliament crafts laws. The Sexual Offences Act was created or was crafted with very aggressive penalties. In fact, magistrates and judges listening to those cases do not have the leeway to even impose community service orders. They are taken as serious crimes and the jail terms are prescribed in law. And that takes away the discretion that a judge would have when looking at cases on different merits.
Senator, when it comes to sexual offences, be it rape of a minor or someone who is older, be it towards a boy or a girl, how do we go about, because this is a very touchy issue, how do we go about questioning whoever the suspect, not even the suspect, what's the term I'm looking for?
Testimony.
The person who the act has been done to.
Yes, the one who's been defiled.
The one who has been defiled. How do you question them without it seeming like you are questioning or doubting the fact that they've gone through a rape case? So you can also see, yes, those people who lie, the people who lie to put someone behind the bar versus those people who are genuine, and if it's a rape case.
The presumption of innocence until guilt is proven has been held in this country in our jurisprudence. I have personally had certain views about that particular principle because you have seen cases where people take responsibility, they take personal responsibility even before their guilt is proven. But that same principle also needs to apply to sexual offenses. There has been a feeling that in such cases you are guilty until proven innocent. But we need to take this further and not just talking about this specific case. There was a Justice Kimaru-led community service orders, which then looks at the nature of offences and sets them free to do community service. That's a way of decongesting, that's a way of reducing the severity of the punishment, and also a way of saving taxpayers' money. Remember, when someone is in prison, he's being fed and lodged. At whose expense? The taxpayers' expense. We probably might need to look at the Sexual Offences Act again as Parliament and ask ourselves, has it contributed to the clogging of our jails? Has it acted as a deterrent, or has it been abused to ensure that people who are not supposed to go to jail go to jail? And also to look at the other triggers that would lead to sexual offences. But more finally, do a cross-reference. Personally, the crisis we have in this country, I cannot underrate and underplay the effect of sexual offences. In fact, they should rank very highly. But corruption should also rank equally highly.
I was actually coming to
The same level of aggression that we have under sexual offences, we can see that same level of aggression in corruption, so that we don't have this Gerard Gays of this world saying that even though they were caught pants down, Gerard Gays of this world.
So, Senator,
I withdraw.
I can see him. He actually preparing.
He was very prepared.
Senator, even as you look, if we look at the laws on sexual offence, and you've already brought out the fact that corruption and both of them should be there, is that a possibility? Could we also relook at the law when it comes to corruption? We keep on saying that you're innocent until proven guilty. You see someone who steals billions, then their bail is only 2 million. Is there a way that, as policymakers, as lawmakers, you can make sure that if it's 500 million that is stolen, automatically this is your bond. If it's 2 million, this is your bond. If it's 2 billion that has been stolen, this is it. But that has to come from lawmakers.
1 minute and then Gerard Gay takes it up. Because the part of the agenda of the meeting between the Senate and the multi-agency task force was to look at legal loopholes that have slowed down the war against corruption. Election petitions are determined within 6 months. In corruption, it is there's no limit. It can take as many years as lawyers can drag the process.
So do you see your fellow senators and members of parliament re-looking at that law?
Yes. Even though sometimes it is like a committee of eagles making laws for chicken.
Chirege is laughing.
But no, I'm not referring to your committee.
I'm not.
Parliament.
I'm following your conversation closely.
But there are proposals that the EACC, DCI, Attorney General, and all the other players in that team have brought before Parliament. And what I expect Senator Gerard Gay to do is to move the House as the chair of that committee and bring these recommendations to the floor of the House so that we can discuss them without thinking about 2022 and without thinking about ODM in the process.
All right, Senator Gerard Gay, before you go, let's take a call from Jackson. Jackson from Kisii, good morning. Thank you for calling Daybreak on Citizen TV. What's your question or concern?
Ndugu yangu, waje tumie Kiswahili.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Jackson Ndogonko Maingu, ni kutoka Kisii County. Nilikuwa nataka kuchangia michezo ya corruption in Kenya. Mimi namkosoa Deputy President wa Jamhuri ya Kenya Bwana William Ruto. Awache anyamaze, uchunguzi umalizike wa ufisadi. Sababu hata anasema corruption imechukua mizizi katika Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Okay.
So kutoka Kisii County tumemraani Deputy President William Ruto anyamaze. Ukasibu Odinga kila saa ni kupeka kila mahali
Okay. Aya, asante sana Jackson from Kisii. You've made your point that you want the Deputy President rather, to allow investigation to continue. I just wanted to take a look at the feedback on Prison Diaries, but before we do that, do you have that? Yes, let's take a look at that. This is Ologi Mwai saying, after watching the Prison Diaries on Citizen TV Kenya, I have realized that innocent people could be doing time for crimes they never committed. On the strength of her daughter's confession on camera, ODPPK should recall that file for review. Wambua should be a free man. Do you have another one? Okay, let's take a look at another tweet. Oh, this one says, first thing is young girl could be protected because she might be missing. I fear for her dear life. She said she has laid down serious allegations linking to a criminal gang inside the courts, touched on an officer who had married her aunt. #Prison Diaries. Okay, that's a very good point. The fact that also the girl deserves security after coming out. Lendrio Kip. The story of Julius Ombo is heartbreaking. The real culprits here are investigating officer, a quack doctor, judge, or magistrate for doing such a lousy job, and the evil mother of this girl. They should all be behind bars like yesterday. DCI Kenya, this story hurts to the core. So I think we limit it to that point. And we're still looking for a solution out of this. Senator Gerard Gay, you being a lawyer and chairing Justice and Legal Affairs as well as Human Rights Committee. So what can Wambua do at this point in time?
I want to agree that because he has served more than 10 years imprisoned, and appeal could have been exhausted because it has timeline. There is little that we can do, but on the strength, because also I can't quite, as a lawyer, you know, facts are stubborn. I can't quite say he's an innocent man, because you remember there was a story that was run media of a lady who was said was framed on issues of sexual offences. Yet the DPP did later confirm that it did true. She was convicted based on the evidence. So we'd like to see what the evidence that the prosecution did add, because my senior colleague here, Mahanso, will tell you the judge will not just make a sentencing or convict you or pass a judgment on not based on the strength of evidence that is before the court. Secondly, and finally, there is an issue on the issue of, I agree that we should have the same aggressiveness in the fight against corruption. There are so many radical proposals that we want to identify in various, even procurement, the procurement procedures, Public Procurement and Disposal Act, the PMF Act, and many others. One of the issue, and I agree with Senator Kajwang, that the cases against corruption should be given a time frame, just like election petition. And one of the proposals, even the Maltagents proposed, is that in as much as you are requested to step aside for and should be concluded within 24 months, we should bring it down that period, so that even as we tell you step aside from an office because of corruption allegations, we should have a limited time frame such that we should conclude that prosecution of any corruption case against you within the shortest time possible.
Have you put timelines for that?
No, we are still considering that. At the moment it is 24 months. We are trying to look into where we should have between 6 months and maybe 1 year. Say that if you are requested to step aside because of corruption allegations or any abuse of office allegation, we should have a shortest time frame. And I agree, so that we can put closure to some of this. You can imagine somebody who is out for 5 years.
All right, Senator, we need to wind up, but not before letting Senator Ledama comment about these prison diaries. And the specific question I want to ask is about, so we see this kind of a family feud that led to a man allegedly in prison for the wrong reasons. What are the possibilities of employing the alternative dispute resolutions for such kind of situations so that you do not end up convicting someone for such a reason?
I think even before we talk about ADRs, we've got to look at what the law says. You know, the presumption of innocent until proven guilty is a legal right for every Kenyan in this country. And that should extend to any crime. If it does so in economic crimes, it should do the same in the Sexual Offence Act. Earlier on, you had asked whether DNA ought to be sourced. And in fact, that has to happen. And on this case, the legal burden of proof lies on the prosecution.
Right.
So what we need to look at is that those victims, and also those who are accused, how much legal aid are they given? Because you'll find that a lot of those people who end up going to jail are people who cannot be able to afford a lawyer. So what we in the legislative arm of government ought to be doing is to ensure that that right to counsel, if you cannot afford one, you should be able to be provided one by the government.
Does the Kenyan law say that?
I mean, yes, it does.
For murder, it does.
For certain crimes. So I think what we need to do is to widen the scope, ensure that that legal right of innocent until proven guilty is actually accorded to every Kenyan. So if we do not do that, then of course there's no way we can ever have a solution to this problem of people being sent to jail, because maybe the prosecutor and the magistrate who are dealing with the matter did not have time to listen to the person who has been accused. The moment you're accused, everybody looks at you. And this is an issue of sexual offense. Even the community, the way they will look at you, nobody would want you to go near their children. Right. So I think we really have to think of our brothers and sisters as Kenyans. Whether you are innocent or guilty, you're still Kenyan. If you're guilty, then the correction services should be able to play their role and ensure that they reform you to become an able citizen.
Quickly, do you think that the family members of the young girl who pushed her to lie should also...
Absolutely, absolutely. Hypothetically, if that is true, because in this case,
they should be the ones in jail.
They should be the ones in jail. In fact, the DPP should actually immediately arrest that person, and make sure they follow the entire web to find out if what this girl was saying, that there is, she fears that her life is in danger because of these people who are there, who are associated to...
Could I just link this to corruption after...
So, which is good actually, because what Senator Kajwang wants to say, and I don't want to pick from his brain, but I don't want to lose my line of thoughts. What I was saying is that I think the DPP ought to follow that and carry out proper due diligence. If indeed what this girl is saying is true, let's find out how old was this girl what did she know when she was being forced to be able to inseminate her?
The link to corruption is important. The first scandal in the Kibaki government was Anglo-leasing. And what was Anglo-leasing about? It was about modernization of the police force and building a forensics lab for the police.
Which is almost complete.
Which is almost complete, but is not complete. 10 years ago, when this person was being convicted, probably he would have benefited from the services of a modern forensics lab. It was not there. That money, the issues of Anglo-leasing are still in court. And that goes back to the issue of limitation of time frame.